Hello, I'm Ralph, and welcome to another edition of Just an Opinion. Friday the 13th is one of the top horror franchises. The original release is regarded as one of the forerunners in the slasher genre, and it forever changed the way that we look at hockey masks. Jason Voorhees is one of horror's most iconic figures, whose mommy issues span 9 sequels and a remake. Today I'm going to rank the whole series. For fans of the films, I highly recommend the box set since it is loaded with bonus features. And if you really want a retrospective look at the whole collection, I highly recommend the documentaries His Name is Jason and Crystal Lake Memories. The latter is also a coffee table book, literally. It's a good read if you want some more in-depth interviews with the cast and the filmmakers. And it's a little bit more raw and candid than its documentary adaptation. Many folks mention what really happened on set, and there is some serious trash talk. Who doesn't love a little behind-the-scenes drama? Now, this video does contain some spoilers and some violent scenes, so consider yourself warned. Finally, an editor's note. I did not include Freddy vs. Jason in this video as I feel it kind of falls more into the Nightmare on Elm Street continuity. I'm going to cover that in a future video. Now, you may disagree with that logic, but it's not worth driving over a cliff.
Townsend, look out!
This is just an opinion. Number 11 is Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. Now, I don't hate horror remakes. Some have actually turned out pretty good. But this was really off the mark. The film pretty much acts like a Best of Jason homage, paying tribute to significant events and kills from the entire franchise. Now, I will say, I did love the stylized beginning scene of this film paying tribute to the original.
You're the last one. I've killed all the others. It'll be easier for you than it was for Jason.
But after this, it just falls apart. Despite the obvious intentions, it almost feels like Jason could have been substituted with another killer in this film, as it really didn't feel like a Friday the 13th film. The plot is a bit heavy-handed. They try to add depth where depth was not needed, and their characters are just kind of boring platitudes. The exception to this, though, was the character Trent. He really was the bright spot of the movie.
Don't drive my boat. I'm the only one that drives the boat, okay?
Aye, Captain.
Hey, Jenna, fuck this guy! Let's get out of here! Wait.
It's been 10 years, so I really hope that this was not the last appearance of Jason. Please come back. Number 10 is Jason X. Now, I find it interesting that this was more or less a stopgap film, just to keep audiences interested in Jason while the studios were trying to bring Freddy vs. Jason to life. I can also appreciate the idea of changing the setting, but this film was just a little too much. Jason in space. I was on board with the opening scene with the idea of freezing Jason to prevent future killing sprees. And of course, there's always some evil government conspiracy trying to bring him to life. But with this, we get a very unlikely cameo from David Cronenberg.
His unique ability to regenerate lost and damaged tissue, I mean, it cries out for more research.
And you're willing to risk the deaths of innocent civilians if he escapes.
Yes.
But once the film hits outer space, it really just falls apart, and it relies too much on CGI kills. We have an abundance of uninteresting characters.
Oh, this sucks on so many levels!
And the upgrade to Jason was a pretty cool look, but not something I would want to see permanently. The changes to the Friday the 13th formula seemed interesting in concept, but the execution left more to be desired. Number 9 is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. This film attempts to add more mythology and ultimately a plan to destroy Jason Voorhees once and for all. But it was just absurd. I can respect the attempt to end the series with a bang, but come on, respect the source material. The notion that Jason had an internal evil that could be passed from person to person, it was just silly, and it really misses the point of the previous films. But the film, it's not all bad. Some of the characters were surprisingly funny.
Hi, buddy. Hey, oh, let me do it. Oh!
Jesus, Pokey.
Car, Steven. You get in the car. You want me to cuff you? What makes you think you can? I got a gun. Fuck that. I got a gun.
And the flick even poked fun at some of the conventions that you saw in the previous installments.
Where are we headed?
We're going to Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh, yeah? Planning on smoking a little dope, having a little premarital sex, and getting slaughtered? It's a joke.
While we did seemingly witness a very weak ending to Jason Voorhees, the ending did offer a pretty rad teaser showing us that an epic confrontation was on its way in about 10 years. Number 8 is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, aka Friday the 13th Bait and Switch. I know the biggest criticism is how little the film actually took place in New York City. I wonder if people would have reacted differently though if the film would have been titled, say, Friday the 13th Part 8 Senior Class Trip. Just a thought. I didn't think the film was that bad though. We have an interesting cast of characters and some very clever allusions to a connection between Jason and our protagonist, Rennie.
Better swim, Rennie, before Jason pulls you down.
I can't!
Yes, you can, and you will. Come on, Rennie, swim!
While it was only a short portion of the film, I really did enjoy the scenes that took place in New York City or Vancouver. It offered some comedic, fish out of water moments on top of the terror.
Don't get you that the hookers will.
You a dead meat slime bag! Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
This film did offer somewhat of a demise to Jason, as it was the last Friday the 13th release from Paramount Pictures, and the future was uncertain. Number 7 is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Jason vs. Carrie, or something like that. This film was meant to be really extreme, but unfortunately was heavily cut by the MPAA. There are many seeking out an uncut version of this film, but I can't honestly say that an uncut version is really needed. I love the diverse cast of stoners, mean girls, and various others who you really can't figure out how they all became friends in the first place.
You pulled on Tina this afternoon.
That chick's crazy. Besides, all is fair in love and war.
Melissa, I don't even like you.
Black has nothing to do with it.
I know. Star Mummy.
The kills in this film were absolutely brutal, but also a little humorous. But it was also interesting to see Jason face an adversary that had some special powers of her own. This entry was quite unique, adding an unexpected layer to the protagonist. Personally, I kind of like the psychological aspect a little bit more, in that the doctor was pretty much gaslighting her the whole time. Also significant for this film was that it was the first outing as Kane Hodder as the masked killer, a role that he would make his own. Number 6 is Friday the 13th Part 3. Now for this section, I feel like I need a little something.
I got some paper towels.
No! I was thinking I need something that ties into the movie more. Okay, here we go. Friday the 13th Part 3. In 3D. This was pretty revolutionary at the time, as the terror didn't stay on screen and— Whoa! Okay, these things are dangerous. Moving right along. The 3D effects are fun and bountiful, as the movie really did want to make use of the technology that it had available. In a series like this, You have some quirky characters that unexpectedly develop a very cult-like fan base, and in this installment we get Shelly. This guy is just so annoying, but you really can't help feeling sorry for him at the same time.
That'll teach you a valuable lesson. A beautiful girl like you should never go out in the dark alone.
Damn it, Shelly! Why do you do these stupid things?
I have to.
We also get to
you
see
don't
Jason
have to.
don the hockey mask for the first time. What might have been a simple throwaway idea turned into one of the series' most significant attributes. Also, I'm a soundtrack guy, and I have to point out how awesome the disco theme was.
Heavy shit.
Number 5 is Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Now this film rubbed a lot of people the wrong way as it didn't feature Jason, but rather an imposter. I have another thought though. Look at parts 4 through 6 as its own trilogy and focus on Tommy Jarvis and his story. It might make you look at this installment in a different light. Tommy Jarvis is still traumatized by the events from the previous film to the point of mental instability. This film plays out like many of the other installments, but it's actually more creative than it gets credit for. I really have to give credit to the supporting cast and its quirky characters.
Would you shut your trap? You know, you ain't so pretty yourself, you know.
I ain't so pretty myself, I know.
This ain't starting, man. You fucked up again, it ain't starting. I'm gonna kick your ass, kick your ass. Come on now. Come on, everybody, this ain't starting.
Baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh.
We've already established that Tommy is very unstable, and through some clever editing, it is unclear whether it's Jason or perhaps Tommy that's doing the killing. And the ending is very haunting, as it serves as a possible different direction that the franchise could have went. Number 4 is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This is arguably the most fun film of the franchise. Director Tom McLaughlin really left his stamp on the series with his perfect blend of horror and comedy. Tommy Jarvis is once again the protagonist, and this ties up his storyline. He has matured, and he is dead set on destroying Jason once and for all with a very plausible plan to do so.
The only way now to stop Jason is to return him to his original resting place, where he drowned in 1957.
Lake Forest Green.
At Crystal Lake, this nightmare began.
Wow, that makes a lot more sense than some mythical dagger. Jason seems utterly unstoppable upon his resurrection from the grave. The kill count is off the charts. The film is very scary at points, but also kind of meta as well, respectfully poking fun at both the genre and even the audience.
Why'd I have to go and dig up Jason?
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
Overall, this film is very well balanced in terms of tone, story, the well-rounded characters, and I find it to be one of the most enjoyable installments. Number 3 is Friday the 13th Part 2. Now this was a great sequel. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to get back to the list. This was a great sequel, albeit it was technically the first installment to feature Jason as the killer. Before there was the hockey mask, we got the burlap sack. This is quite minimalist, but pretty scary as well.
Oh, there's someone in this fucking room!
Jason's mother serves as one of the only semi-clear motivations towards his killings. There is definitely some Freudian psychology thrown in the mix as he makes a shrine devoted to her.
Jason! It's all done, Jason. You've done your job well and Mommy is pleased. That's a good boy. Now come to Mommy. Come on.
Once again, we get a really cool cast and a very strong female protagonist. While the first Friday the 13th hid some of the violence through clever editing, this film is much more in your face. They even borrowed some scenes from the extremely brutal Italian film Bay of Blood. Number 2 is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. The final chapter? I don't think so, but this film was excellent. A highlight of this film is some pretty eccentric characters. We have a pretty wholesome family, we get some Doublemint twins, we have a hunter that is on the search for Jason, and we get Crispin Glover.
Don't ask me to stay. Don't think you got it made. No, no. You're wrong.
This was the introduction of Tommy Jarvis and his story arc within the series. Amidst the killing, we see a sweet and innocent boy confronted with his worst nightmare and forced to defend his own life. I'm very happy that they fleshed out his storyline in future installments and the impact that Jason had on him. Director Joseph Zito was charged with the task of ending the franchise, and you could really see that he put an immense amount of effort into this film.
Leave me alone!
Looking back on it, it really could have been the final chapter for Jason, but thank goodness it wasn't. Number 1 is the original Friday the 13th. Sean Cunningham blatantly ripped off Halloween, but changed it up a bit. This film removed the safety of parents and local authorities, having the film take place in the wilderness at a campsite. While it is a forerunner in the slasher genre, it's not quite as gory as one would expect. It's actually a bit more stylized. There is heavy usage of the point of view shot, as the killer is actually a mystery. Suspense is built as the characters disappear one by one if they stray from the group. Cunningham was heavily influenced by the film 10 Little Indians, thus the film has some whodunit elements in it.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
Ultimately, the twist revelation of who the killer is and the surprise appearance by a young Jason left audiences shocked, but craving for more. Friday the 13th remains one of the top horror franchises of all time. Despite a lack of film releases in the last 10 years, Jason Voorhees is still kept alive in the history of horror film, slasher enthusiasts, and popular culture. Thank you for watching. I'll be back soon ranking the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I hope you check it out.